Redshift here, doing my part to shift perceptions out of the pink and into the red. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about aesthetics, in particularly chins, at least at first. I'm going to be talking about chins. It's really shocking how few people have the right size of chin, or at least women, right? Like most people have chins that are too big, or at least white women. But Latino women too. I've noticed there's a lot of really good looking Latino women who just have terrible chins. It's like the main problem of really good looking Latino women, or at least the ones you see on TV that are very white looking. Like, and most of them, most Latinos are on TV are white looking. On like the Spanish channel, Telemundo, Univision, Unimas, etc. Like they have too big of chins. It's like a universal thing. It's crazy. But even white women who are not Latino at all, not even officially Latino, and they're not even white-looking Latinos, they're just straight up white. Even those women mostly have chins that are too big. Either the chin juts too far forward or it goes down too far, without jutting forward much at all. And the people who have chins that are not too big may have a chin that's too small. Like a too small chin can often be ugly too. The size of a chin that is ideal seems to be this razor-thin range of size. It seems incredibly easy to have a chin be too large or too small, but almost impossible for a chin to be just the right size. And then there's other factors that make chins not ideal either, like cleft chins are ugly, at least on women. Chins that are rounded when seen from the side, like a lot of white women's chins are, which is, this is not ideal either, or it rarely turns out ideal, even though theoretically it might be possible to have a chin of that type be ideal looking, but most of them are not ideal looking. Some chins sort of separate from the jawline, and that typically means that they jut forward a bit too much, like when viewed from the front, right? Like the jawline kind of comes in too much and then it kind of juts out too much, right? Like, that's also not a good thing. Like Jenny Boyd, who plays Lizzie Saltzman on Legacies, has a chin like that. And Reese Witherspoon's chin is a bit like that as well. Although instead of it kind of going in too much and then back out again, it sort of just is like normal and then it juts out too much. So many people focus on features like eyes, hair, lips, teeth, nose, whatever else, and everyone seems to ignore the chin, even though the chin is literally the most important feature when it comes to beauty, at least female beauty. Not because chins are attractive, they're not, but because to have a truly beautiful face, a woman also has to have a good chin. There are huge percentage of women who have an otherwise wonderful face. Like among beautiful, quote unquote, beautiful women, there's a huge percentage of them who have a great face, but their whole face is basically ruined by having a bad chin. A cleft chin, or a chin that's too pointy, or a chin that juts out too far, or goes down too far, or a chin that's too small, although that's far less common. Chins and noses are what they make bigger on the stereotypical image of a witch, because those are the two features, chins and noses, which can most easily ruin a woman's looks. A bad nose can completely ruin an otherwise gorgeous face. A bad chin can ruin an otherwise gorgeous face as well. While a bad nose is more obvious and seems to be more destructive to a woman's looks than a bad chin is, it is a fact that tons of women have amazingly beautiful noses, ideal noses, like just perfect noses. There's a ton of women with perfect noses, but there are hardly any women who have ideal chins, perfect chins. I mean, it's so rare, it's almost mythical. It's crazy. And another thing I want to say about beauty is that the same features do not look good on both men and women. Some features do look good on both men and women, but not all. For example, large eyes, those Disney eyes, you know what I mean? Like Amanda Seyfried has, right? Like, or what's her name? Mary Elizabeth Winstead, right? Like huge eyes look great on women, but they don't look particularly good on men. If anything, women like guys with average or smaller than average eyes. But large Disney princess eyes, do look good on women. And so, like, the only way to make it so that both men look ideally looking and women look ideal is to do genetic engineering. Because, either you have women all have big eyes and then all men will have big eyes as well, or, which is probably not too attractive, or you have men have normal size eyes, but then, so that men look good, but then women don't have the big eyes, right? And larger chins look fine on men, but look terrible on women. Also, guys also look good, although guys also look good with much smaller chins, so that's not a problem. You could give everybody the same size of chin, that is an ideal chin, a chin which is ideal for women. You could put that same chin on all guys, and all guys would still look great. You know what I mean? But eyes are a different feature. Like big eyes look good on women, but not on men. The point is mainly that you cannot breed everyone to be perfect looking through natural breeding. To make the human race perfect looking, we will have to do all breeding with genetic engineering to make sure that all women have very large eyes and make sure that no men have very large eyes. That way, all men will be able to be very good looking and all women will also be able to be very good looking. But if you had two people who are genetically engineered to be ideal looking, and you like a man and a woman, and you had them breed naturally with each other instead of using genetic engineering, then the result would be that, some of the sons would be born with large eyes and would not be all that great looking because of it, and some of the women would have smaller eyes than her smaller eyes like her father and would not have her mother's big eyes, and so she'd be less good looking as well. So since there's not a perfect 100% overlap of which features look good on which gender, like, this is the perfect chin for both men and women. This is the perfect nose for both men and women. These are the perfect eyes for both men and women. Since that's not the case with every feature, it's the case that, like, the only way to make everybody super gorgeous in society is to genetically engineer everybody, right? Because it would never perfectly work out if we were ever conceiving everybody the natural way still, right? Like, you could have everybody gestate and give birth the natural way, but as far as, like, choosing which genes are in the zygote, you cannot do that the natural way if you want everybody to be perfectly gorgeous looking, Like, we don't have to do artificial wombs or anything. We can just, genetically engineer the sperm and the egg or whatever, then put them together and then use in vitro or whatever to put them into a woman, and then she gets to gestate and give birth naturally, right? And that's how you could do it, right? And then you could have everybody be extremely, highly intelligent, highly moral, extremely beautiful, extremely healthy, etc. And then we'll be, implanting that fertilized, genetically engineered egg into the woman of a woman, or it'll gestate and then be born the natural way. Men and women can have the same nose and still be good looking, although I would say that the ideal nose on a female is concave. That is, it's not straight and it doesn't bulge out, it curves in. Whereas the ideal nose for a man, I think, is probably straight, not concave. Chins can be the same as well. Lips, for the most part, can be the same as well. But eyes and noses, I think, are the two biggest features which are different in men and women in their ideal forms. Eyes especially. Another thing I want to mention is how I find it very interesting how there are tons of Spanish words that are very similar to English words, but it makes it, and this fact that these Spanish words are similar to some English words makes it easier to remember those words. But the words in English that those Spanish words are similar to are not as common as you might think, right? Like, a lot of words, like in Spanish, are obviously similar to the English word, but those are not the words I'm talking about. I'm talking about Spanish words that the Spanish word is similar to a more obscure English word, such as the Spanish word for happy is feliz. Feliz is not at all similar to the word happy, right? They start with different letters, the middle letters are different, the end is different, like, everything about the word is different than the word happy, right? But the word feliz is similar to the word felicity, which is a less commonly used word in English that means very happy or blissful. They clearly come from the same root word, felicity and feliz. Maybe it's a Latin root word, I don't know. I never took any Latin classes, but they do definitely clearly come from the same root. Another example of such a Spanish word is the word cenizas, which means ashes. This word is not at all similar to the word for ashes, but it is similar to the word incinerate. Just take the IN off the front of incinerate and you can see the definite similarity. Cenizas and incinerate are almost certainly come from the same root word. Another example is the word diente, which means tooth. And while this word is not similar to the word tooth, it is similar to the word dental. Diente and dental are very similar. Another word is the word puerco, which means pig, but it's more similar to the word pork, right? Another Spanish word is a moneda. It's not similar to the word coin or currency, which is what it means, but it is similar to the word money. The word audace or audacia both mean daring, but the word in English that they're similar to is audacious, which means the same thing, daring. You see, so a lot of Spanish words, they're not similar to the word that you're going to see in the Spanish dictionaries, the meaning of that Spanish word, that English, you look up in the Spanish to English dictionary, you look up the Spanish word, it's got the English meaning. There's usually, well, not usually, often it's not similar to that English word, but it is similar to another English word that has the same meaning, but is a much more obscure word. The word pacifico in Spanish means peaceful or peaceable, but the word it is similar to in English is pacific, which I don't know if you know, but the word Pacific is a word that means the same thing, peaceful. This is, now you may think of like the Pacific Northwest or the Pacific Ocean, but what does that word Pacific mean? Well, it means peaceful. It's just a very obscure word that people don't use anymore, but it is an English word. The word animar means to encourage, to cheer up, and it's similar to the English word animate, which means to come alive. And it can mean it literally, like, the zombies or something, or figuratively, such as like cheering someone up or getting someone excited or something like that. So that's yet another example. The Spanish word pusillanime means cowardly, but it's not similar to the word cowardly, but it is similar to another English word that means the same thing as cowardly, and that word is pusillanimous. And, pusillanime and pusillanimous both clearly come from the same root word, probably Latin or something. The Spanish word inconfundible means unmistakable or irrefutable. And while those words are not similar, the word the word inconfundible is similar to the English word unconfounded, which means not confused, which has a similar though not identical meaning. Fabricante means manufacturer, but while the word is not similar to manufacturer, it is similar to the word fabricate, which means almost the exact same thing as the word manufacture. The word temporada means season or seasonal or period, and is similar to the word temporary, which is a good description of a season, a temporary type of weather that will change once the season changes to the next season, like summer turning into autumn. And also another example, the final example I'll give of this, is the Spanish word for whale, is ballena, which is not similar to the word whale, but is similar to the word baleen, which is the mesh that big whales, I don't think it's sperm whales, I think it's the other kind of whale, although maybe it's sperm whales. There's these really big kind of whales, and they have this mesh thing in their mouth, it's like this filter, and they take a big gulp full of seawater, and then they run the seawater through that mesh, and then like a sieve, it leaves the bigger particles in there. All these little tiny creatures, the water goes out, but the tiny creatures are kept in the mesh, and then they eat those, right? So, the Spanish word for whale is similar to the word baleen, which is that mesh that those big giant whales have. I could probably give a lot more examples of this, fact that Spanish words are often very similar to obscure English words that people rarely, if ever, use anymore, right? But you get the idea. It's interesting, isn't it? The better your English vocabulary, the easier it is to learn Spanish. And it's probably that way with other languages that are related, such as other Romance languages, like even German, which is the language most similar to English, and like English is not a Romance language. English is not even a Romance language, and yet still it's got a lot of similarities, a lot of similar words or similar words that are from the same root word as Spanish, right? So if another language, like, not like Chinese or something like that, but like, French, Romansh, German, etc., English, or especially Latin. If you know any of these languages, it's going to make it easier for you to, learn other languages of that type. Romance language or a sort of related Romance language like English or German, right? Like, especially Latin, right? Like, I totally understand now why people are always taught Latin in school, because it's like the master key that opens all the other doors, because so many of the other languages, their words come from words that, came from Latin words, like the Latin word is like a root word, and then Spanish developed a version of that word, and then English developed a version of that word, and they have similar meanings, So Latin is like this master key that opens the door of all the other Romance or related to Romance languages. If you know Latin, it's going to be easier to learn any other language, like, Spanish, French, German, English, Romansh, Portuguese, etc. Although if you know any other language like Spanish or English already, then that makes it easier to learn another language as well. Another thing I want to mention in this video is about ties. Notice people don't wear swords anymore, but, but they do wear ties, right? Like, people these days are not warriors anymore, but they are warriors in a financial sense. Hence, it makes sense that, businessmen wear ties. They're fighting financial war. They're trying to acquire money, rather than fighting a physical war for a paycheck and to acquire land and women, right? And by earning more money, they can get more women, right? So it's actually very simple. I mean, not simple, similar. It's very similar to, what was done in the past. It's just on a financial and legal level now, rather than on a physical level like it was in the past. They're trying to do hostile takeovers instead of invading cities. They're trying to do financialization instead of, breed with the women of the new country. It's all kind of the same thing. It's just in a different form. And ties actually look like a sword. They even come to a point at the end like a sword, also very much like that little tower that's in Washington, D.C., that tower that was in Babylon, that's also in 2 or 3 other places in the world. It's a pagan symbol or whatever. I think has to do with ties to, those ancient mystery religions and stuff. It's probably tied to Moloch worship and all that. And a tie is also kind of like a hangman's noose or something like that, right? They go around the neck fairly tightly. Isn't that also a reflection of the buttoned-down nature of business? It may be dishonest and cutthroat, business is, but it's also very buttoned down. They have to have a lot of self-control, control their emotions, control their facial expressions, keep calm under pressure, not give anything away by uncontrolled facial expressions or gestures or movements, not panic and sell at the wrong time, just like stay the course, even though it's like takes balls of steel to hold on to your stock or whatever it is while it's going down, because according to technical indicators, it's going to go back up again or go up even more. Like that can take like extreme self-control, right? So hence it making a lot of sense that they have this thing around their neck that's tight, it like reflects the emotional control that they have to have. And ties are also a very phallic symbol, just like a sword. And like George Carlin said, it's the subconscious drive to insert the penis into other people's affairs. It's called fucking with people. Remember when Carlin said that in one of his stand-ups? I think there's a lot of truth to that. I didn't really necessarily believe him when he first said it, but now I'm starting to really think that he was probably right about that. And businessmen may not fire off missiles or bullets, all of which, like Carlin said, are shaped like penises, but they fire off sell orders and buy orders, and they try to screw people over financially. They try to financially rape other people, then, hostile takeovers and all that stuff. They try to harm other businesses. They try to take over other businesses. They try to drive other businesses out of business in order to have all the market share to themselves, much like men trying to kill other cities or other countries as men in order to have those men's women to themselves. Sound familiar? And another thing I wanted to mention just to close this video out is that I wanted to mention that I hope all of my subscribers are doing all right financially, considering all the retarded financial bullshit that the U.S. is doing right now, forcing everybody to close their businesses and stay at home and stuff. If you've lost your job, I hope you get your job back soon, or that you find another job soon, such as when the government is forced to soon stop this social distancing nonsense. This has been Redshift. Hopefully someone got some small benefit out of this video. Peace.